Hello everybody, so today we are going to be drawing this comic book page. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to do a rough sketch. Nothing too detailed here, just kind of rough outline of how I want things to look, the expressions of the faces, the dynamics of the page, what's going to happen. One thing you will notice here is I want things coming towards the reader. So the plane has a lot of foreshortening, a lot of perspective, and the torpedoes coming down that bottom panel, you may not be able to tell what they are yet. They're dropping right towards the reader, so it draws some interest. So once I have a rough sketch down, what I do is I put some details in. In this case, I did have a bit of a reference. I got some pictures of a Grumman tracker, which is the airplane that I'm drawing right now. I didn't have any pictures aligned in the same angle or anything. So what I did is I kind of came up with the angle, drew the basics of the plane itself, and then just use the details to put, like how the windshield looks, how the elevators look, some details on the engine. And from the pictures I could get, I took that and created this kind of amalgamation of how the plane would actually probably look like if it was flying towards us. And put a lot of details in. One of the things that you'll notice is I do try to make things dynamic by doing a couple of different things, by overlapping, so creating layers, or in this case you have layers of that right side engine is going to be breaking the panel. That makes things interesting. Foreshortening I already talked about. That makes things more dynamic because it makes things look like it's popping right towards the viewer itself. Shadows is a big one. The more blacks you can put into a panel that's contradicted by white, those dark and light spots will create an interest to the human eye, so that kind of gets drawn into it. And then anytime you can put something in an angle, so in this case the plane is canted, it's also called a Dutch angle if you do that to a panel, it makes things more interesting and people tend to be drawn to it. So those are just some things that I can do there. And so the other thing is we have what we call flow. So I did kind of what I would refer to as reverse C flow, and that the reader's eye is going to start in the upper left hand side of this page, and as it goes down you see the plane, so you tend to go towards the front of the plane, right? So the human eye is going to come to exactly where that plane is popping towards you, and then that leads right into the panel of the pilot, who in this case is screaming something aggressive like, let's get these Russians. And then that leads straight down to where the plane's dropping the torpedoes from the bottom angle. And again, torpedoes coming towards the reader, towards the viewer. Very important that you take those things into consideration. So I guess it's not really a C, but more of like a reverse Z or an S, reverse S or a Z, I should say. So upper left, middle of the page to the right, slightly bottom third to the left again, and then coming down as you follow those torpedoes to the right. And that's important because when you actually put the verbiage in, you'll see me when I start lettering them, that's where you want to place those letters as well, because then you're being supported in those eyes. So inking itself is pretty straightforward, but it's about details. I don't do a lot of details in the initial sketches. I used to when I would just do straight up pencils and have somebody else ink over my work. Now that I kind of do everything myself, whether it's digital inking in this case or inking in a physical paper, which I actually prefer, I do very, very loose sketches, and then I do all these little details in here, like the engines, these reciprocating engines and all that stuff there. The shadows and all that, is you do that throughout the inks, and I find that it actually works out better because when you do stuff in pencil, sometimes you get like a false sense of a shadow. And what I mean by that is everything's kind of gray tone, so it's not quite as black and white, and you get a better sense of how things are actually going to look in the final picture if you just do it with the inks, right? Digital inking allows you to kind of do a lot of stuff and experiment a lot more. But you can do the same thing if you're doing inks on paper as well. And actually, inks on paper, I don't know what it is, but it just feels a little bit different, and you do tend to get a little bit more of a cleaner look, in my opinion. So as I move into this section here, you're seeing me kind of experiment in the face. So, I'm just drawing that. I do a basic structure, and I actually, as I look back, the headset and helmet is probably incorrect for the time. This is kind of 1959, the early 1960s era, but it just looked kind of cool. And the other thing is too, I gave this guy kind of a pair of aviators. That's what I eventually decided on, and you'll see me draw that in. But one of the things about doing that is sometimes when you put sunglasses on people, it covers up the eyes. The eyes are the most expressive, so sometimes it does look a little goofy. Hopefully it didn't end up that way. And what you see me doing here is, initially I thought I wanted this to be kind of a guy screaming. So when you do something like that, you want to make what you see there is around the outside of that panel of the guy. You see me kind of drawing lines towards the center. Sometimes if you do something where somebody's screaming or somebody's saying something dramatic, you put lines that kind of focus stuff into the point of where the mouth is. It just gives it a little more pop, a little more drama inside of that panel. So something that is kind of cool as well. And then I was also going to put the hand up in the yoke. So the yoke is sort of, think of it like a steering wheel except for a plane. And it was going to be pulling and like knuckle dragging white, just gripping it. But I decided not to. Decided just kind of keep focus on the face itself. And then from there, just adding in all the little details, right? So this plane, when I was drawing it, the only references I could get were some photos, but they weren't of any of these angles. So the bottom of the plane is kind of just made up, and that I don't think I can really see any bottom pictures of the Grumman tracker, this plane. So I looked at some kind of World War II prototype planes where they were trying to do the same thing, dropping torpedoes down. Don't know if it really worked out, but it seemed to be a pretty good rough estimate of how the bottom of this plane might actually look like. And then the torpedoes, I really don't know. Those are accurate to the error. I just kind of Google image search some torpedoes and then went from there, and didn't really do the exact drawings, but I got the basic shape and how the back of it would look like and stuff like that, and then just started doing the shading in here. So what you can notice is I do a lot of deep detailed work when it comes to my inks, because I want this to basically be drawn in a manner that it can either be completely black and white, or if I do add colors, I can essentially just add flats. I like that look. That's kind of a look I picked up over the years, looking at a couple of different artists. For example, if you look at, I would say David Aja is, I don't know if it's Aja or Aha or Aya, but he's the guy who does that. He does a lot of details, a lot of shadows, and then you basically can draw over it in flats and it looks cool. So you're just giving it some tones. I feel that a lot of comic books these days are really, really over-rendered when it comes to the colors, and everything's, for lack of a better description, very shiny. Everything is very shiny. Everything, skin color has like hot spots and I guess like not glow spots, but like reflective. Everything looks reflective, looks shiny. And I think that's cool once in a while, but I actually don't like that look. I like more of a flats look, because it looks like a traditional comic book versus something that looks like, a knockoff of like a Photoshop picture or something like that. So just my opinion here. So again, this is where I changed. I took the hands away because you gotta know what the purpose of the panel is. So in this picture there, I put the just the head, and then again my colors, like I said, pretty simple, pretty basic. I'll probably do a black and white version of this book and maybe have a color version as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, I actually kind of feel that this book will probably do better in the black and white version, right? Because of the way the art goes, because the color kind of takes away from it. I'm not a great colorist, but I do it anyhow, because there are people that just like colored books. They don't like reading just black and white books, right? So this is me hand lettering. Lettering is, everybody should do it, I think, just to learn the skill. I know it's on a platform, but I am actually drawing out the letters themselves. Some people just type it, or they use like a program or something. I was actually disappointed. I once paid a guy to do lettering. I thought he was going to hand letter, and he was just like putting it through it wasn't like Microsoft Word, but it was some kind of lettering program. Maybe it was Manga Studio or something. And I was like, oh, so I'm just basically paying you to type letters and then move around the page. So I like the idea of hand lettering. And so how I do it is, you can't see it on here, but you can do guidelines in Procreate. And then I just basically draw each letter through Procreate. And I do it this way. I move them around afterwards to place them where they need to be. And then that's what I do. I can adjust them a little bit. But every letter is me actually drawing out the letter, not just using a computer to do it. And I think it looks better. I think there's just something about hand lettering that is appealing to the human eye. And so you'll see me kind of look at this. So as I wrap this up, this is the final page. Hope you liked it. Thanks. Bye.